Yo, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to Afro Wonders. So today we're actually doing an Afro review on Croatia, talking about what it's like to visit as a black person. Now, if you asked me about a year ago where Croatia was on the map, I honestly wouldn't have been able to point it out to you, let alone tell you what it's like to visit as a black person. So one of the things that I did learn while there was, it has some of the most beautiful landscapes you can expect to see in all of Croatia. And anybody that knows me knows that nature is my thing when traveling. So, whether it be the lofty mountains, beautiful lakes and majestic waterfalls, the countless islands to visit, the pebble and sand beaches, there's no shortage of beautiful things to see there. And even with that being said, honestly, my fondest memory and favorite thing about being in Croatia was the warmth of the people, especially in Zagreb, which I'm going to talk about that later. Being black there definitely had a unique flavor to it. People weren't really expecting to see me there, particularly in Zagreb, the capital, where we first landed. And we went down south on a 9-day road trip from Zagreb to Split and Dubrovnik. But along the way, we hit a lot of different cool places, national parks, UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and further south we went, I'd say it got more touristy, and you can expect to see anybody there. But so I took a lot of things into account in this review. Of course, the safety, the cost to visit, just service and treatment, just in general what it's like to be black there, and a lot of other things. So with all that being accounted for, Croatia actually got an amazing 4.5 out of 5 Fros in the Fro Rating Scale. So would you like to know why? All right, let's go. So my number one favorite aspect of Croatia, as I mentioned before, is the warmth of the people and just the general personality. In all my European travels, I can say, particularly in Zagreb, that the people were easiest to get along with and converse with, which was a big surprise to me because I didn't know what to expect at all going to Croatia. I didn't know if the culture is a little more direct or indirect. Are they a little bold or shy? Is they racist or nah? Who knows? But to that last question, I gotta say that I was traveling with two of my homies, white American dude and an Indian woman. So, I can say that we got a lot of hardcore stares when we first arrived in Croatia, particularly in Zagreb. And, nothing sinister, of course. It was just very genuine stares of curiosity. And, I guess it was an interesting bunch of people to be traveling during that time. This is particularly during COVID time, so they know there aren't very many tourists coming in and out. But even my friends, they mentioned it. They're like, all right, yeah, we can tell that most of the stares are directed at you, Zach. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm glad you guys, I knew that. I'm glad you guys know too. But like I said, once you actually talk to the people, they're staring at you, but they're just curious. And they're some of the most open-minded people and easy to converse with that I've met in Europe. So that was really cool. That was a very interesting aspect that I didn't expect, and very pleasant surprise. So during our travels there, you would expect people to even be a little more reserved because this was in July, late July, when COVID is still rampant as it is today. And you would expect people to be a little more reserved, not want to talk, not want to get too close, but it wasn't really like that at all. Things were still going there. A lot of businesses still open, restaurants and bars. And people were not really shying away, which I was surprised by. I talk a lot more about this in another video, Travel During COVID. You should check that out. Put the link below. So I was in Croatia during the peak of the protests after the George Floyd murder by American police. And that means that everybody was watching. Not only was everybody watching, people from all over the world, all different countries, felt emboldened to fight back, to to fight police brutality in their own countries, which was a beautiful thing. Almost all countries in Europe did it, and it was great. And in Croatia, it was no different. But so we were at a Sunday morning market in Zagreb, which is the capital city of Croatia, and I think I was at a quilts vendor, like one of those stands. And I like to talk to people whenever I'm at one of these markets, or whenever I'm in another country. They speak as much as possible. And this guy, my nationality came up being American, and the guy's like, yeah, America is just terrible right now, and we agree that it's kind of in flames at the moment, when especially late July. And I can never tell anymore anyway, like if people are talking about COVID, racism, or police brutality, any of that, I can never tell when they're talking about America. But this guy in particular was talking about racism and police brutality, what he saw going on. And it's like, yeah, I can't believe what America and the police are doing to black people. It's just a horrible thing. America needs to go down. We need to fight back. I was like, hey, I agree with you, I feel you. But he had like that Freudian slip where he almost said niggers and Negroes, whatever he was gonna say. But he stopped himself, which I thought showed a lot of restraint and self-awareness to switch that up. Cause he's an old dude. He might have been like in his 70s. So I'm sure like he says that word all the time when referring to black people. So I thought that was interesting and very self-aware of him to switch it up, for what that's worth. But I did find that funny because in his solidarity, he was like, never mind. But in general, I agree with his sentiment. But even outside of that, race came up a few more times during my time in Croatia. Just in general, especially with the police brutality with George Floyd going around. So, and outside of me, and I mean, we didn't see many black people, especially during these times with less tourism. And it was really interesting. Like, I mean, there were so few people that my homie was just like, she pointed them out every time she saw a black person. Like, oh, there's one Zach. I'm like, yeah, it is. Which, I mean, that's really how few there were. But we did meet a lot. I mean, we met a couple, which was really nice. But that's one aspect of being black in Croatia. So it's hard for me to say too much about the service and the restaurants, the treatment and the restaurants and establishments, because we ate at like 3 or 4 Michelin star restaurants in Croatia, which when you do that, of course, service is going to be top notch when you're dishing out over $100 per meal per person. But whenever we did make unplanned stops at different restaurants, I can say that the service was actually really good, and the food was also good too. The service is really good compared to a lot of other places that I've been in Europe, especially compared to the Netherlands. So Europe, a lot of Europe has a reputation of just not having very good service, especially compared to the States, because it's not so tip-based. The waiters and waitresses their wages aren't completely tip-based. They have a lot more guaranteed to them. So, they're just doing their job. But in Croatia, I can say that it was actually much better than in the Netherlands and a lot of places that I've been in Europe. Not quite as good as Italy, but, better than a lot of places. So, I'd say nothing very noteworthy outside of that about treatment and service. I'd say that I got treated as everyone else, which that's all a kid can ask for, right? So we always felt very safe in Croatia, and that's saying a lot because we were there for 9 or 10 days, and we stopped in a lot of different places, from Zagreb to Dubrovnik to Split, not in that order, but a lot of different places in between those as well, because we were driving. So we'd stop for gas in random places, of course, get food in random places, middle of nowhere. We stopped at this random stand, like literally in the middle of nowhere, ATVing through the mountains on an island, island hopping to different places, going out at night, going to bars, Man, even when we were cliff diving with strangers, we felt safe, which is crazy. That was my first time ever doing that, and it was awesome. But yeah, I can say that we never really felt out of place, even when we were in the middle of nowhere and the people only spoke Croatian. Maybe they didn't speak English, which, like I said, that's only in those places where, not in the major cities. There are some people that don't speak English, obviously, and even in those places, you feel completely comfortable. Like I said, they're very good about service and treatment, so they just want to make sure that you're good. It's very easy to communicate if you have a menu or you see what you want. So I can say that never felt out of place, and we even made friends at some places that, we would have been able to meet up with. We didn't actually, but would have been able to meet up with in the future. So yeah, it's really cool. I can say that Croatia is a place that you don't have to feel out of place or unsafe. Obviously, there are going to be some places where it's sketchy, so always stay close to the center of the cities or be with people. You'll be fine, but we never felt out of place. So the financial side is definitely an advantage when visiting Croatia, especially if you're looking to make a budget trip to the Mediterranean. So the first thing to know is that about €1 is about 7.5 kunas. That's their currency, the kuna. And I mean, at non-Michelin star restaurants, just normal restaurants, you can get a good meal for 70 to 100 kunas, like an authentic meal, Croatian meal, which is really good. And that's, I don't know, it's like $10 more or less, and that's including like an appetizer or something else with it. So I'd say it's definitely an advantage. We definitely didn't have a budget vacation. We balled out at every chance, but do as I say, not as I do. Outside of food, I'd say the establishments, the tourist attractions, they're pretty, I guess, reasonably priced, not too different from other places. Like a Game of Thrones tour that we did in Dubrovnik, I think that was about 20 to 25 euros, which, I mean, for a Targaryen, that's a steal, but, I guess that's pretty normally priced to other places that you would go in Europe. And outside of the Game of Thrones tour, we did like City Walls tour, Museum of Broken Relationships, stuff like that. That was in between 10 and 20 euros. So, I mean, it's pretty standard, I'd say. Cost for food and a lot of other things, knickknacks, clothes, you can find it for the low. But, tourist attractions, pretty normally priced. Now, I'd say the food in Croatia was good, but not mind-blowing. Like its neighbor right across the sea, Italy. But seafood is the name of the game there, since so much of it is coastline. I had several dishes that hit just right. I mean, they just did the trick. But I also had a handful that were pretty underwhelming, and I was expecting more. But, it's the part of traveling, you learn. So black risotto, I think, was the most unique dish that I had there, and I actually really liked it. It has a very bold flavor and distinct flavor that I can't say I've ever had before. They also serve a lot of octopus. I tried octopus, and at least the one that I had was pretty chewy. And honestly, I like the taste. Texture is not my thing. So I'd say they had a lot of very good seafood. Outside of that, we went to, like I said, a couple of Michelin star restaurants, and the best one that I'd say is called Restaurant 360. It's in Dubrovnik on the city walls, and it's amazing. Get incredible views of the city and the sea, and we definitely coughed up a pretty penny to go there. But you get like 7 or 8 courses, which are all individually small, but by the end you're stuffed. But the food is amazing, like explosions of flavor in my mouth hole every time. And they do a really good job of explaining in detail exactly what you're gonna taste and what order you should try things in. And they're always right, and it helps. It definitely helps to have somebody to kind of describe it to you and discuss the flavors and how you're supposed to eat it. It was a unique experience, to say the least. So you know, if you're spending that much at a restaurant, you expect to enjoy it. But outside of that, the non-fancy restaurants, the standard place that we just stopped at, I'd say the food was like satisfactory. It was good. Now we went to Croatia in July and it was blazing. Oh man, some people tan in the sun, but I char grill. Like I was black. I was black by the time we left. But, you know, to be fair, that's what you expect out of a coastal Mediterranean vacation, right? Now, like I said, it was really hot there, especially in Dubrovnik, the further south you go. But it also depends on what time of the year you go. In the winters, December, January, Zagreb is further up north and actually gets down to freezing temperatures as the lows. While if you go down south to Dubrovnik, any of those cities, then you know, it gets blazing hot in the summers and the winters are relatively mild. So it never gets too cold in the southern Mediterranean. So that would make some places in Croatia good destinations year round, really. So we rented a car for our road trip throughout Croatia, but all the cities that we visited were extremely walkable, I'd say. Zagreb uses a lot of trams, buses, trains, but trams I think are the main mode. But we opted to walk everywhere we went because it was so easy. And it's a better way to see the city if you've never been, right? And if you ever get tired of walking, we did take Ubers, which they are in abundance there, like most major cities. So you'll never have a problem getting around, and you always have that reliable, and it was cheap too, Ubers there. We also have a lot of taxi cabs, particularly in Dubrovnik, but all over. So you never really have a hard time getting around there. Now, unless you want a vacation deep in the mountains, which you can do in Croatia, I'm sure it's beautiful. I'd suggest staying close to the city centers, and you can find good places for not that much money. And that would make it so that your whole trip in that city is extremely walkable. You won't have to drive. We usually parked at one place in the city when we arrived and just left it there for days, walked around, took Ubers, and just found our way around that way. So I think that's transportation in Croatia is really good. So considering the city's demographics, safety, weather, food, transportation, among many other things, Croatia got 4.5 Fros out of 5 on the Fro Rating Scale. That's pretty damn good. So I'd suggest to anybody to go to Croatia. If it's not on your list, just know it wasn't on my list last year. I didn't know where it was exactly in Europe, but I can't wait to go back. In 9 days, we barely scratched the surface, and I'm definitely gonna hit that up again because it's an incredible place, whether you're looking for bold and youthful nightlife, if you're looking for nature, looking for beaches, mountains, whatever you're looking for, you can find it. And it's even a great place to roll solo, I found. So whenever I split from the group, I'd wake up early and just go for a walk, go get some coffee, some breakfast. I found it was so easy to talk to people, make new friends. Like there are a lot of people that I met there that I still keep in contact today through Instagram or through text. So it's a great place to go solo. And it's a great place, depending on what kind of trip you want. They have a lot of different options for Croatia. So, yeah, man, put that on your list for sure. It's a great place to visit. But thanks for watching Afro Wonders, y'all. I hope y'all really enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below if you have anything to say, if you have any questions. And other than that, man, until next time, it's Afro Wonders, y'all. Peace.